We would see one specific inverter in detail, the operation of it, so that you will understand how the inverter converts a DC to an AC. The circuit, whatever is shown over here, is an half bridge inverter circuit, which has two DC sources, V1 and V2. Both V1 and V2 are having the same voltage value V. We can assume that they are same magnitude, 12 volts itself. And there are two switches, S1 and S2. This symbol indicates that we have used MOSFET. And there is an anti-parallel diode connected, which would not be of use in a resistive load, but when it is an RL load, it would be of much use. So let us see the working of this particular half bridge inverter. And this R, whatever is shown over here, is the load circuit, a resistive circuit. Initially, we would go through the resistive load, and then we will move on to RL load. So we have two switches, we have two old DC supplies and two diodes. Now this has two different modes of operation. Since there are two switches, so we can split the operation working modes into two. Mode 1 when one of the switch is working, mode 2 when the other switch is working. So I have taken out mode 1 as S2 working. So the darker lines here show that the circuit is closed. Okay. Here in this particular mode 1, S2 is given the pulse. As you all know, when you give a switching pulse to S2, the switch, it will turn on. Until you give the trigger signal to the switches, these two switches will not turn on. So we are providing a pulse to the switch S2. So when the pulse is given to S2, then there will be a closed path formed. So what is the closed path? It is formed through the supply voltage V2, the load R, and then through the switch S2. So this is going to be the closed circuit which is formed. So the current flows through it. If you could see over here, there is something marked as A and B. The two extreme ends of the load are being marked as A and B. Now, when the voltage is connected, when this is the positive terminal of the battery, when the positive terminal of the battery is connected to A, and when the switch is conducting, it is just a short circuit. It is just connected, just a straight line, which is wire just joining it when it is conducting. So it is not offering any resistance. So it's just a conduction over here. And the negative end of the battery source is connected to B. So the voltage seen by the load is positive. As it is clearly written over here, the closed path is from the supply voltage V2, the resistor, the switch S2, and back to the supply voltage. Now the terminal A is connected to the positive terminal, so it sees positive voltage, and B through the switch it is connected to the negative terminal, so it sees a negative voltage. So the voltage what we have seen here is going to be a positive voltage across R. So what exactly would happen over here in the top part of the circuit? Since the switch is not on, there is no closed path, so there is no current. So it is void. It is not conducting. The top part of the circuit is void for mode 1 operation. Moving on further to just jot down the waveforms, what is there. So in mode 1, the first graph shows that it is the pulse what is being fed for mode 1 in S1. We have not given any gating pulse to the switch S1, so it is 0. But we have fed in gate pulse to S2 because S2 is switched on. Switch is switched on when you are giving a pulse to it. So when I give the gating pulse to the switch, then this has a considerable amount of voltage, maybe 5 volts. So this has been shown with a rectangular symbol. So when S2 is given the pulse, you can see that the voltage across this is nothing but the output voltage. The orange color waveforms tells you that it is the voltage across the resistor. So that is positive. So the second part of it, we will just come to the next slide. And the third, again, it's going to be a cycle repeated. So mode 1, mode 2, again mode 1 repeats. So you can see that this orange color waveform is repeated because whenever the switch S2 is switched on, the voltage across the resistor is positive. So as you all know, when there is an voltage, the current could be derived from it, which is nothing but V divided by R. We all know that according to Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. I is nothing but the current through the circuit and R is the resistance across the circuit. So if we need current, I is nothing but V divided by R, V voltage divided by resistance. So the same pattern of the waveform is followed, but with a reduced amplitude. This is the total voltage V, which is nothing but V2. The total amplitude of this particular voltage would be V, which is equal to V2. So this would be V divided by R, which is nothing but the current through the circuit. Now we have seen the first part of the circuit where we have obtained the positive waveforms. Okay, and anything should be continued with respect to time. So let me assume that the time period for operation of the inverter is T. So mode 1 was for duration T by 2. For the next T by 2 seconds, the mode 2 comes into picture. So we are switching off the switch S2. The gating pulse to the switch is being removed. When the gating pulse are removed, automatically the MOSFET comes to switch off condition. Okay. So when S2 is switched off, there is no current over here in the bottom loop. So the bottom circuit is void over here. Whereas at the same duration, we are providing the gating pulse to the switch S1. So S1 is fed out with the gating pulse. So what exactly happens in the top switch? Now there is a closed path formed over here through V1, the supply voltage, V1, S1, B are the resistor, load resistance. Through the point A, it is closed back. So a closed loop is formed. So current flows through it. But you could see over here, the positive terminal of this voltage source is connected through the switch to point B. Previously, we had A to be positive. Now B is positive. So what does that mean? It is reverse of the previous condition. So the load sees a negative voltage. You could see that A is connected to the negative terminal, whereas B is just connected to the positive terminal. Switch, when it is conducting, is just going to be a connection. So B is directly connected to the positive terminal. A is connected to the negative terminal. So the voltage which is seen across the load for mode 2 is negative. So alternating waveform, when do I call that a waveform is alternating? We should be having equal positive and negative waveform. So that is alternating. So in the mode 1, we have got positive voltage, and in mode 2, we have got negative voltage. So let's see the waveform, how it's exactly going to be. We have drawn only the mode 2 operation. In mode 2 operation, switch S1 is given the pulse. So this is the gating pulse which S1 is being given. But during the same period of operation, S2 is off. So there is no pulse given to S2. But if you could see the voltage seen at the load is negative now, because B is connected to the positive terminal. So voltage seen at the load is negative. Similarly, what would be the current? Current would be V divided by R. So this is the current, and again, it takes the same value, which is negative. You can see over here, the current is moving from B to A. Whereas in the previous diagram, that means in the mode 1, if you could see, the current is moving from A to B. So A to B current is taken as positive. Whereas when the current is moving from B to A, then the current is taken as negative. Okay. So this first part of the diagram is from mode 1. And the second part of the bottom diagram is from mode 2. Now we are combining both the modes of operation, because an inverter would be having mode 1 operation followed by mode 2 operation. And again, mode 1 and mode 2 goes on repeating. Okay, so the final overall circuit or the overall waveform for mode 1 and mode 2 put together would be, the first top waveform is going to be S1 pulse. The second one is going to be the S2 pulse, which is the gating pulse. And the next third one is the output voltage, and the fourth one is the output current. So when S2 is triggered on, we get the positive voltage corresponding to positive current. When S1 is triggered on, we get a negative voltage correspondingly negative current over here. And this goes on repeating. So we could see over here, this is an alternating square wave. So this is called as a square wave inverter, where the input is going to be only V. For example, here we have taken V1, V2 to be a same value, name it as V. So this voltage V is going to be the maximum voltage, peak voltage of the output across the inverter. So to further analyze, we should have mathematical equations for any particular converter we describe. So for this inverter, when we are talking about, we could see the output or average voltage. Any average voltage is given as area under the one cycle of a curve. And one cycle is always taken as 2 pi. Now let me take the cycle as T. As I have explained in this particular context, let me just take the time period as T. So we will have to take an average of over a cycle T. And if you could see over there, we can just take half the cycle for calculating the average value. So for half the cycle, the time period becomes T by 2. So T by 2 is in the denominator. So if I rearrange, it becomes 2 by T. And coming to the area of that particular curve, whatever is the area of this half cycle, this is the half cycle. The full cycle is T and half cycle is only one mode. One mode is for half cycle. So the area under this particular curve, it's an area of a rectangle, which is length into breadth. So the breadth is going to be T by 2. It is nothing but total time period divided by 2, T by 2. And the length is going to be V. Okay, so the product of that will be V into T by 2. So the area of the curve is nothing but V into T by 2. I again repeat it, it's a rectangle. So the rectangle area will be length into breadth. Length is going to be the magnitude of that square wave. It is V, and the breadth of it is going to be half the time period. So it is T by 2. As you could see over here, this T by 2 and 2 by T gets cancelled. You'll be getting an voltage V. That means the total input voltage is nothing but the average output voltage got in an half bridge inverter circuit. The other concept what we have to know with respect to the inverter is RMS voltage, output RMS voltage. Root means square voltage. As the name indicates, square root over the mean square value. Square the curve, take the mean of it. Okay, square root of mean. Mean is 1 by 12. The whole average. Mean is nothing but the average thing of a squared waveform. So the whole waveform has to be squared. So other things remaining the same. Instead of 2 pi, we replace it as t, because for the explanation we have taken it as one time period t. So it is 1 by t, 0 to t, v squared t. So moving on further, we can just go in for integrating the whole thing for half the cycle. So it goes as 0 to t by 2, v squared t. So v squared t in the sense the whole waveform has to be squared. So on to the height it is v squared, but the breadth does not change. The breadth remains the same, which is t by 2. So the whole area now becomes v squared into t by 2. So that is being substituted, v squared into t by 2. The whole thing is squared value, and when we cancel out, we get the value v itself. Now the same circuit, whatever is shown, is being simulated in MATLAB Simulink. So MATLAB Simulink is the friendly software where we will be able to use all the switches. We will be able to get readily all the resistor or the load parameters, your source parameters, and each and every waveform could be seen in detail. For example, the same circuit which has V1, V2 with the resistance R, instead of a MOSFET, I have used an ideal switch. Why? Because this is applicable for any type of load. So an ideal switch is being used. So when the switching pulse is given, then the switch is connected, or else it remains in off condition, and an anti-parallel diode is being placed. I have not explained the working of a diode here. We will see that importance in the next slide in an RL load. And you can see over here onto the right hand side, the pulses of S1 and S2. S2 is there at the starting, which is the blue color waveform, followed by S1. Whenever S2 is on, the load voltage is positive. Okay. You can just see over here, the load voltage is positive. Whatever is seen here is positive. This is the zero line. This is going to be the origin line. So you can see that the voltage is going to be positive. Whereas the origin line for S2 is here and the origin line for S1 is here. Okay. So when your S1 is on, you can see that the output voltage is negative. It has gone down. So the input voltage, this particular circuit, we have simulated it for 200 volts, 50 ohms resistor. The resistor is going to be 50. You can see that the output voltage is been shifting between 200 to minus 200. 200 is V1 and minus 200 is V2. So it is shifting between 200 to 200, whereas the current, if you could see, 200 divided by 50, which is nothing but 4. So that is what is the current now shifting between positive 4 and negative 4, plus 4 and minus 4. It takes the same waveform as that of your load voltage. Now, square wave inverters, as the output seen over here is a square wave. Square wave is nothing but a combination of a fundamental sine wave with harmonics. Whenever we have any switching circuits, or if you involve any inductor or a transformer, then harmonics are produced. Why? Because these elements, whatever we have talked about, a diode or a switch, a MOSFET, an IGBT, any switch are non-linear devices. Similarly, the voltage across an inductor is also non-linear. So an inductor and a capacitor is going to be a non-linear element. condition. So when we have nonlinear elements over in the circuit, so the circuit will now generate harmonics. Harmonics in the sense, if at all the frequency is going to be 50 hertz, then twice the frequency, that means 100 hertz, 3 times the frequency, 4 times the frequency, 100, 150, 200 hertz, all will be present. So the summation of the fundamental value with all the other waveforms, 2f, 3f, 5f, would generate this square wave. A square wave is considered to be a sine wave summed with all the harmonics. Harmonics are unwanted waveforms which other than the fundamental frequency. So we will have to avoid those things. So to avoid that, we bring in a resonance between an inductor and a capacitor circuit. So that is a separate topic to be dealt in detail. So we will move in for an RL load, because all the loads are not resistive in nature. They are going to be involved with some inductance also. If you talk about a DC motor load or an induction motor, it has resistance as well as inductance effect in it. So if the load is replaced with RL, instead of R, if it is replaced with RL, what exactly will happen to the working of the circuit? That will be in the next two slides working. The working remains the same. S2 is switched on as per the previous condition, and the current flows from V2 to the load to S2 and so on. But in this particular duration, the inductor is charging. Inductor is a storage device. Okay, it stores the energy in magnetic field. So this inductor is now charging. It charges as A end positive and the other end negative. So when we are charging this particular inductor, we can see that it charges up to a level whenever this until the time S2 is being connected. When you remove this S2, when you switch off this S2, what would happen? Now the inductor is a device which does not allow any change in current. For example, the current was moving from A to B. So when the switch S2 is switched off, then the flow of current is all of a sudden abruptly stopped. So this would be opposed by the inductor. An inductor is a device which opposes any change in current. So when the current tries to decrease, then an opposite reaction happens. As per the Newton's law, for every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction. So the action was the sudden stoppage of current. You're stopping the flow of current. The reaction would be the inductor would oppose this cause and it will reverse the voltage and maintain the current in the same direction. So what would the inductor do now? It has stored some energy in this particular mode of operation. Now it tries to give back that energy to the source and maintain the current in the same direction. So it will maintain the current in the same direction from A to B, but in turn, it forward biases the diode D1. This voltage, which was A positive, now due to the reverse action, this end would become, B would become positive and A would become negative. And this voltage will now forward bias the diode D1. And so there will be a path from inductor. Now inductor is the source which has more voltage than the source voltage V1. So this inductor would now forward bias the diode D1 and dump its whole energy to the source V1. Now this is called as reactive energy. The energy what is being retrieved from the inductive load is nothing but reactive energy. We are giving back to the supply. We are not only receiving from the supply, we are giving back to the supply also, which is a very good part from the load point of view. So mode 1 itself now split as 2, which is S1, S2 conduction, and S2 when it is switched off, D1 will be conducting, and this particular thing would go on until the energy in the inductor is depleted. Then after this particular thing, now we are going to switch on S1. Now S1 would be charging the inductor in the reverse direction as B end positive and A end negative. So once when S1 is switched off, now again there will be a drop in the flow of current, or the flow of current is stopped. So again there would be a change in the voltage. Voltage across the inductor would change, or the voltage across the inductor would reverse, so that A becomes positive and B becomes negative. When B is negative, the bottom diode D2 is forward biased. A is positive and B is negative. When will diode D2 will get forward biased? When your D2 terminal, when your B terminal is more negative with respect to the other terminal, then the diode D2 is forward biased. So the diode current, now the circuit is closed with the load, supply and the diode V2. So whatever energy is stored in this particular time duration when S1 is on, the energy from the inductor is dumped into V2. It is the same as the previous condition, but in second mode, again you have two modes of operation. One is S1 conduction, the other is V2 conduction. Now, when compared to the resistive load, RL load was little bit advantageous. Why? Because we are feeding back the amount of energy, whatever is taken from the supply is being partially fed back to the supply in turn. We are using already static devices, so our efficiency has increased, and we are feeding back the supply to the load itself. Still more of our efficiency is being increasing. Now moving on to the waveform. How would the waveform look like? The output voltage is still a rectangular waveform because your input voltage is going to be DC. So your output voltage would be a square waveform. So which is V and this is also V. Maybe this is V2 and this is V1. Both the voltages are considered to be value V. But when you go through the output current, your current would not be a square wave, because for a resistive load we saw that it is going to be a square wave, but for an inductive load it is charging. As you could see over here, this is the point where it is charging and again it is discharging, so the current comes down and it charges in the negative direction and then discharges in the negative direction and then goes on charging. An inductor should have a complete charge and discharge cycle for it to be stable. So the initial part in the mode 1, it is charging, and the second part it is discharging. Moving on further, it is charging in the negative direction and discharging it in the negative direction. So this is the full working of an half bridge inverter for RL load. The same thing is simulated in MATLAB Simulink with an RL load. You could see over here the waveform, the circuit. This particular thing is a charging phase, and this is the discharging phase. Okay, and once when it is crossing zero, only it can be charged in the negative direction. And if you could see over here, whenever it is trying to move to the negative direction, there is a spike at the output voltage. This is because of your harmonic levels. This is because of the switching. As you could see over here, switching is happening at 0.435. Whenever the switching is happening, the current direction changes and that affects your output also. There is a spike in the output levels. Whenever there is a switching, you can just see that spike occurs. This is not allowed for an output voltage. So we will have to design filter circuits so that these harmonics are filtered out. So that would be the basics about how a half bridge inverter is working. So we have seen what an inverter is and what is going to be the different classification of inverter, different applications of inverter. By now you would have got a thorough idea what would be your job opportunities. There are many companies which are working with our renewable energy sources, photovoltaic cells or wind power systems or electric vehicles. So some of the companies have been listed over here, mainly ABB, GE, Honeywell, Bloom's Energy, Alstom. These are the major companies which are working for renewables, for electric vehicle, for metro engines, etc. So you have a wide range of opportunities over here. If you are good in the inverter part of it, you will be able to fit yourself in a renewable energy sector, either with PV or wind. In ABB, each and every company has all the units. ABB has renewable energy sector unit separately, electric vehicle vector unit separately, power sector unit separately, etc. So each and every company has these sectors in them as different verticals in their companies itself. So you will be able to find yourself jobs in as inverter engineers or engineers who are good in inverters in renewable energy sectors, electric vehicles, power sectors. Nowadays, smart cities are coming up, booming up like anything. So you'll be able to find a job in smart cities also, or microgrid units. Microgrid units in the sense you'll be having small PV array, a small wind unit put together, and it could be a standalone system or it could be a grid connected system also. So those microgrid units are marine engineering also. In shipyards, you have the best working as inverters, power electronic engineers, or in aerospace, because we have seen one example for aircraft with the inverters also. So you have a wide scope if your basics in power electronics is going to be good. So that's all for today's session. So all the best for your future, guys. Thank you.